This picture is going around on Twitter right now. It's got 636 retweets, but it's posted quite recently, and it's constantly being spreaded. And you see these big tanks of fuck you that apparently are going to go and try to stop the Yellow Vest protest. And we got Paul Joseph Watson also tweeting, so is this what the EU army will be used for? Crushing dissent. And it shows like a very militarized police force with the armored personnel in the background having the EU flag drawn upon them. And my question is like, why are people spreading fake news? Like, you don't need to lie in order to show how bad the EU is. This is the advantage that people on the right side have. You don't need to push out misinformation in order to convince people that the European Union is bad. When you push out misinformation, you lose credibility. And then people stop listening to you when you put out good information because they will say, oh, this guy, he pushed misinformation in the past. Clearly, he's always lying. Why are you using him as a source? The European Union's army is still in the phase of a project right now. They don't have anything of the sort. The only thing remotely similar that the EU would have is the European Gendarmerie Force. And as you can see, their insignia is not that of the EU flag. So no, those were not European Union Army. If you see that on Twitter, call it out. Don't let people spread misinformation because you're going to give the political opponents ammo in order to call you out later on. I get that it's very easy to say that, oh, this is the EU army because they look tankish. I mean, they're APCs, they're armored personnel carriers, they're not tanks, but they look menacing, right? And they got like the EU flag on them, and the fact that they're painted blue doesn't really help. And the fact that they look menacing. No, those are the National Gendarmerie of France. The National Gendarmerie is one of two national police forces of France along with the National Police. And it is a branch of the French Armed Forces, and it's placed under the jurisdiction of the Ministry of Interior. So basically, the French people are like one step closer of calling the army in order to deal with the protesters. They didn't call the military, but it's close the fuck enough in order to suppress their own population. Now here's the thing. In my country, the government had the common decency to step down when the population rose up due to a fire in a nightclub, which happened because of corruption. And so many people rose up that the government just stepped down. This is what should have happened in France. The way the government is managing this crisis is abhorrent from someone else looking in. You got 2/3 of the population supporting the yellow vest. Just step the fuck down at this point. You know, have some snap elections. Have some common decency. You're committing political suicide, Macron, because you're just refusing out of arrogance to step down. It shouldn't even have gotten to this place, by the way. I already made the video. I explained the situation. Like, things are way out of control by this point. If they would have negotiated with the protesters from day one rather than calling them racist bigots or xenophobic and whatever other shit they decide to call them under the sun and decide to censor them, none of this would have happened. The situation didn't have to come to this particular point. Even Donald Trump is now laughing at Macron. I am glad that my friend Emmanuel Macron, I love the diplomatic language by the way, and the protesters in Paris have agreed with the conclusion I reached 2 years ago. The Paris Agreement is fatally flawed because it raises the price of energy for responsible countries while whitewashing some of the worst polluters in the world. I want clean air and clean water and have been making great strides to improve America's environment, but American taxpayers and American workers shouldn't pay to clean up other countries' pollution. Now, I made my stance perfectly clear. I do believe in global warming. I do believe it's man-made, but I also don't think the governments want to fix the issue. And they're not fixing the issue by adding extra taxes. In fact, most of the taxes don't even go for environmental things. They go to pay for the welfare in Paris. And it's not even fixing the problem. When's the last time you saw a chart coming from a government and say, look, ever since we got that tax, that additional tax on fuel,
look, all the pollution went down. When did you see that? Because I didn't see it. They keep taxing and taxing and taxing, and they're lying to people. They're saying, oh, it's to protect the environment. Bullshit. It's to get even more money to the budget. And it's like, okay, well, of course people are upset. Of course people are pissed off, you know? But here's the overall thing. Like, again, it shouldn't have gotten to this point. And at this moment, the only solution that I probably see it is two ways. Number one, you're going to see some of the worst suppression of people that you have ever seen in France. I mean, they're going to beat the living shit out of the protesters until they're going to be terrorized from going into the streets, which is a possibility. Or number two, the government is going to step down and you're going to have some snap elections, which I don't see it happening, right? And take into account that France, the French system, wants to be the one that the European Union is built under. Like, the French and Germany want to lead the European Union. And my question is, like, what will happen when you get protests in other countries? Are they going to then send what will become the EU army? Because eventually they're going to get it. Are they then going to send it to quelch, like, some Hungarian protest or some Italian protest or some shit like that? Because that's also a possibility. You know, like, tell me, why wouldn't it happen? It's not a slippery slope. I just want to know the argument. Why do you think they wouldn't do it if it comes to that? Like, what exactly would prevent them from doing it? Their conscience? They don't seem to have a conscience. They're beating the living shit out of the protesters at the moment. You know, now I'm not saying all protesters are peaceful and no protester deserves to have the strong arm of the law come upon him. Because there are protesters that are looting, you know, and burning other people's cars and stuff. Like, no, I agree. You know, like, those people, they deserve to be arrested. But I have also seen images on YouTube with people peacefully protesting, and then the police just cracking down on the protest because fuck you, that's why. So, you know, like, there are two sides of that. I also see policemen just taking off their helmets in support of the protesters. Like, that also happened. Because even the police has to pay money for gas. You know, and they don't give a shit about more taxes from the government. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, you know, maybe a French person, a French subscriber of mine can jump. You see what I did? Jump into the comment section and tell me, what do you guys think about Macron? Didn't he promise that he will lower taxes and shit like that? Like, people are so fed up here in Europe. Like, every single time you have, like, some person coming up and it's like, oh, vote for me, I'll lower the taxes. And you know, like, it's not that they don't have the common decency to not go through with the campaign promises, because that would be fucking acceptable. You know, like, well, they lied. You know, they didn't have the time to get around to doing that. No, that's not the issue. They raise the taxes once they get elected. Like, that's what pisses people off, right? Because it's not that just they lie and they don't do what they promised. No, they do the opposite. It's like, what the fuck did people vote for them then? Of course you're going to get people upset. You know, like, I'm generally curious, when do they think that people have a right to get upset with their leadership? Like, do they even think that is a thing? Like, should people even protest? Like, question mark. Right, no, it's horrible what's going on in France. And I'm definitely watching it in order to find out how this is going to resolve. Because it's very interesting. And to be honest, like, this is something that the French always do. Like, they keep voting for authoritarian people and then they riot against the authoritarian people. I wonder if it's like the same people that go to vote that also go out. I mean, I'm genuinely curious. But anyway, another French person. Like, please jump into the comment section. If you know anyone that voted for Macron and is now out in the street, let me know. I'm definitely curious. With that said, I hope you appreciate the video. I did get to 100,000 subscribers. Thank you guys for helping me achieve that. Wouldn't be possible without you. And if you like my work, consider sponsoring me on PayPal and shit. Also, you know, just because I reached 100,000 doesn't mean you shouldn't subscribe. Subscribe, please. Oh, and P.S. I almost forgot. Very important. Pathfinder with Christy Winters tonight. It's going down. If you like Dungeons and Dragons, if you like that kind of stuff, then please feel free to tune in. I do have a live stream channel. Just go on YouTube and search for V live streams. Press enter. That's my channel. And, I do daily shows there, almost daily. I do try.
And also probably found a replacement to Patreon. I'll make a video and letting people know. A lot of people were very upset with Patreon and decided to stop supporting it. So I found an alternative, and I'll release a video in the upcoming days.